here we go for another episode of my podcast called Let's Talk Horses, where I get to invite very amazing and special guests onto a podcast and talk about horses. I mean, how does it get any better than that, truly? My guest on today's podcast is the first time I've ever had her on. She is an access consciousness facilitator. She's a conscious horse, conscious rider facilitator. I'm sure she's a billion other things in this world as well. But for now, I'm just going to list those two. Thank you so much for joining us, Miss Laleh Hancock.
Hi, Sarah. I'm so excited to be here and talk about horses.
I mean, come on, like, is there a better subject in the world to talk about? There's probably a lot that are very cool, but I love spending this 30 minutes with my guests. Just the podcast is really this space of spreading the joy of horses. That's really it. Like, I love hearing people's stories. I love seeing where these podcasts go, and I'm super excited to see what comes up in this next little while that we get to spend together, Laleh. So the first thing I love to ask my guests, if I've not had them on my podcast before, is how did horses come into your life?
Well, I have two words: Gary Douglas.
That man, I think he's to blame for a lot of people's, introduction and joy with horses, to be honest.
When I first found access, my background was pretty much business. On the weekends, I would learn all these different tools for wellness, for, releasing stress and things of that sort. And then when I found the tools of access consciousness, I was like, oh my God, I'd like to incorporate these tools, especially joy business, into everything in my life. And I recall my first interaction with Gary was in Toronto, what now is called the Choice for Possibilities class. And he really kept stressing everything he ever learned about business, he learned from horses. And I was like, what? How is that possible? I want to know what he knows about business and horses. And it really started the curiosity, and it wasn't until my first event in Costa Rica, going on a ride of really starting to allow my body and me to really, I can't even say understand, but start to engage and explore really what horses are and really how much we can learn from them and they can learn from us.
Yeah. Yeah, which is really what I love about the Conscious Horse, Conscious Rider classes that we're so fortunate to be able to facilitate. But I just want to dive in a little bit about some things that you said there, because for a lot of people, drawing the line between business and horses, which is something that obviously to me and you makes perfect sense. I mean, I have my two horses out in the paddock here where I live, and literally every time I interact with them, even if it's just feeding them or doing like day-to-day type things, I walk away different. I have more of me. I have more of a sense of like what's up in my world. I have a sense of where they're willing to contribute to me and where they invite me to contribute to them. So can you talk a little bit about kind of like how, now fast forwarding these years you've spent with horses, with consciousness, with access, with even the joy of business tools, like how do you have a couple of little things that you can refer to with horses and business and what that looks like?
Oh, I have like 2 million examples to share today. Actually, one of the programs that I also facilitate is called Leadership with Horses. And I think that's the one thing that most people tend to not recognize is that a horse tends to be 1,000 pounds. I don't know what that is in kilograms, but like it's
about 500 kilos. Yeah.
So 500 kilos, more than 1,000. Like my other horse was 1,200 pounds, like they're not just going to go because you said go, but neither do your children, neither do your staff. And so for me, the groundwork with the horses shows me so much, One, how am I communicating? How am I engaging with the horse? Am I inviting it to come and let's play, let's explore, let's work? Or am I demanding get here now? Because the get here now is most people in business. Do it my way, do it this way. And then they notice there's this resistance. Well, it's the same thing. The horse shows you you can't. You got to actually lead. You have to engage, you have to communicate, and then they follow or they come next to you or they lead, whatever it is. But it's really bringing it to our day-to-day lives, the same thing. I mean, can you imagine telling your teenager to do something just because you said it doesn't mean it's going to get done?
Yeah.
So for me, the conscious horse, conscious rider tools are almost like the 101 to parenting and to living, and of course business. So if we could have the bible of conscious horse, conscious rider, and everything that we do, I think we just would be happier. The world would just be greater.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is really what I think horses invite us to. And I love what you were talking about there, because I think force is the energy that a lot of people think that they require to change something. Or it's almost like when something comes up in business, in your family life, in your relationships, that you're like, you get like this thing about like whatever that looks like for you, a crank or like a frustration, or that you think, okay, I need to take that energy of that crank, that frustration, that pissiness, whatever, and I take that energy and I basically turn it into the force required to change something. And I think what horses really invite us to, because you still see a lot of people working with horses from that space, and you see, what that achieves. It achieves something, like something comes out of it. But what I love about what you were saying then and what horses invite us to is, if in that moment you're willing to acknowledge the thing that needs to change, or that you're aware of something that may be possible to, create something greater, create something different. And where horses invite us to actually, rather than like grabbing that thing and like, boom, forcing it, it's like this, like, what if you just took that energy and let it expand, and you instilled some peace, some relaxation, and some question, and then look at how you can make your horse move, how you can make your teenager move, how you can make your staff or your employees or your colleagues move from this space, though, of where you're almost like modulating that energy to become, like you said, an invitation to, hey, come walk with me, or hey, can you lead in this situation, or hey, follow me for a moment. Like this really different way of acknowledging that everything on this planet is actually just energy, and it's how you take that energy and use it that actually creates the outcome.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Like I had a situation yesterday with a staff member who said something, and in the past it would have been something that would be annoying, like would want to have a reaction to it. And that moment I had to stop because I realized I'm like, wait a second, I'm in her head. I'm reacting based on what she would like to have. Instead, how would I react if I was standing in front of my horse?
Hmm.
And immediately everything changed. It didn't even have 5 minutes. Like it just was this immediate, because I knew if I have a reaction, my horse is going to kick me, throw me away. Like it's not even going to come near me. But
Yeah.
that's the thing that I think a lot of times we don't recognize is what you just were saying earlier with the force. It tends to be, even with teenagers, you react, they grab that energy of reaction and want to react back harder,
Yeah.
or an individual in your life or a stranger down the street.
Totally.
Um, but that moment that instead of the reaction becomes that space of relaxation, which is
Yeah.
something no one teaches you, but if you relax into it and just expand out. My new horse, she's now 3 years old, and it's been funny. I put her picture on my phone just because she's in Costa Rica and I don't get to see her a lot. And she's facilitating me every day by the picture. Like I look at her and I'm so grateful for her. But like she literally is part of my I would say my all day facilitation of, hey, remember, how would I be with her?
Yeah.
And what would she be sharing with me at that moment too?
Yeah. I love that so much. And this is really the essence of what I think conscious horse, conscious rider classes are about, is that even if you don't own horses or you're like you, and I mean, even me, I have my horses here at home, but I also have 2 horses in Costa Rica that I only see at this year. It's probably only going to be once this year, actually. But there's nowhere in their world that they will separate from you. Like, no matter where you are in the world and where they are in the world, or even if it's not your horse, even if you have an interaction with some horses during a conscious horse, conscious rider class, or you happen to just be fortunate enough to spend some time with some horses, that they never, if you require something from them, like some energy, some facilitation, some reminding about these different things that we've been talking about, they're always there. They're willing to, which is so different to people, I think, because and I've never really looked at it this way. It just came up then because I'm like, I don't think there's a person in my life, if I had them on my phone and I looked at my phone, that would be like, oh, this person's facilitating me now. But whereas you look at horses and they're so present in your world. It's like, and they're so willing to be like, oi, dude, what the fuck are you doing right now? Or, hey, like, what if you looked at this another way? Or, hey, if you were around me, how would you respond to this situation? And because I've often looked at how much horses, exactly that, like how much they impact our lives, how much they're in our lives, no matter how much time we spend with them, which I've found sort of hard to convey to people, and which is really what I think the gift of conscious horse, conscious rider classes are. Because, you know, you might come to a conscious horse, conscious rider class and you're like, I'll spend 2 days with horses, but I'm not going to see another horse for a year or something. But in that interaction, in that time you get to spend in that class, it's almost like the class never ends. It's this ongoing facilitation of energy that you're now invited to, along with the horses of the world. So let's talk a little bit about some conscious horse, conscious rider classes. Is there anything in your recent classes that comes to mind with facilitating people, or things that have come up with the horses that you'd like to share?
I think you were just reading my mind, because that, as soon as you were saying that, I'm like, oh my God, it just reminded me of the class I did in Miami probably a month ago. And we were there with 2 people who didn't have any experience, and then a bunch of people that have horses, they, even the owners of the property. So people that we had a wide range of experience with horses. And it was just so interesting how each horse facilitated us and allowed us to facilitate them so different. You know, like one had this thing going on with his eye, and they kept thinking, oh, it's white skinned, and every time it's in the sun, it can only be in the sun, you know, for a short period of time, could be ridden a few hours, and then we put him back. But then when we started to actually communicate with the horse and start to explore what's going on in the body of the horse, it had nothing to do with what they were diagnosing him to be.
Mhm.
And you know, you walk away, and horses, they're so grateful. You give them a little bit of energy, or something shifts and change, and they're just very grateful. This horse literally for 20 minutes was just like, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I walked away like, I've never been like so appreciated, you know, just feeling so great. Because as soon as we were empowering the horse's body, which at the same time was empowering our bodies, like that gratitude just kept going greater and greater. And then the owner being part of that too, and her saying like, oh, we really need to handle this differently. So it was this like beautiful thing that just kept having a domino effect, you know. And then we had one situation where this girl, she's 7 years old, and she'd been thrown off her horse 2 or 3 times, and she didn't want to be near that horse anymore. And what was really interesting for me is, you know, after I started working with some of the horses, the little girl started to trust me and came and stood next to me and said, hey, can you help me? Can we do something here? And I started asking her questions and asking the horse questions. And you could see how much the little girl kept checking out. Like she kept like getting distracted. She was not being present with the horse. And
Yeah.
I asked her, I was like, so the moment you fell off, what was going on? She's like, oh, I started thinking about my friends and la 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 la. And then she started to actually recognize the horse wasn't kicking her off to be mean or anything. It's those moments she would check out, was no
Yeah.
longer connected to the horse. And the
Yeah.
horse didn't know what else was going to happen. So it was facilitating her.
Yeah.
And her aha moment, like she just melted, this girl. We did some other exercises with the zone and things, and it was just so beautiful to now see the effect of all of these tools and the connection the horse and her had, and she could not wait to ride this horse again. And so, like, I one of the things that I found with conscious horse conscious rider, one, you don't have to have any experience at all whatsoever with a horse, but even people who've had horses 15 years, 30 years, walk away saying, how come no one taught me these tools 15 years ago,
Yeah.
30 years ago? So it's a win-win for everybody. It's really a magical experience.
Yeah. And that's what I love. I mean, I've been pretty much enamored and obsessed with horses since I was a very small girl. And, so on that journey until I found access consciousness and the tools of conscious horse, conscious ride, I've explored a lot of different modalities and methods of training horses. And it's not like when you come across conscious horse, conscious rider, you're like, okay, forget all the things that exist out there in the world. Now I'm like all about this. What I love about it is it actually it just entwines into whatever style of riding or training you do, whether it's like dressage or you're into natural horsemanship or Western riding or something like that. Like these tools are actually there to grow and expand whatever like discipline of horse that you're interested in learning and being more about. Like it's really this thing of like adding to those things. And I truly believe that conscious horse, conscious rider is like the level up of horse training, horse whispering, horse communication, that exactly like you said, that no one in this industry have really been given up until now. So it's so exciting to know that there's something like this available for people. And whether it's that you're into horses because you want to train to top level dressage, or you're an eventer, or like whatever that is, that you have that. But it's also like, even if you never want to ride a horse and you want to learn more about being more courageous, learning better leadership skills, learning better communication skills, like horses aren't just here for us to ride. They're not just here to have that style of interaction with them. They're actually here for whatever we desire to be more of in this world. And I've never met a creature on this planet, person or otherwise, that quite so succinctly invites you to be more of you. Like whatever that is, they don't care. They don't care if being more of you looks like this or this. All they care about is, hey, I just want you to have them be more of whatever's true for you. It's so amazing. Yeah. I'm so grateful.
You know, I I don't even know where to start. My gratitude, like, when I was, I don't know, in college, I rode a horse once, but pretty much that horse was just a trail horse, wasn't really engaging. It was just, hey, follow the leader and kind of ride. So, like, horses for me in this lifetime, anyway, I didn't have a lot of experience until I came to Access.
Yep.
And, most people were like, Laleh, you're this business person. What are you doing with facilitating horses? And I'm like, hello. It's not separate, but it is. I think a lot of times people put themselves in a category that I'm a horse person, I'm a not horse person, I'm a business person or whatever, I'm a mom or whatever. But what if you're everything and you
Yeah.
can include horses to contribute to that for you?
Yeah.
And for me, we do so many things in this Conscious Horse, Conscious Rider 2-day class. One is a trust exercise. And I find, wow, it's not just about trusting the horse, the ways the horse teaches you to trust you.
Yeah.
And I've attended other people's Conscious Horse, Conscious Rider classes, including Gary's and Susie's and everyone else. And each time I'm learning more, I'm gaining more awareness, I'm creating a different communion with my body and the horse and the land. And so, like, I really invite people to start to explore a little bit different than maybe what they've been used to, and take that curiosity and see what it is. You know, we have intro classes around the world, we have 1-day classes, we have 2-day classes. So there's a little bit of something for everybody.
Cool. So I would love to hear just for a few minutes about your horses. I don't know a lot about them. So I'd love to know, who are your horses, and how did they come into your life, and tell me a little bit about that.
Well, technically, there's one now.
Uh-huh.
The So after I attended my second Conscious Horse, Conscious Rider class, I purchased a horse from Dallas. And this other facilitator, she had a farm, and she showed me the picture, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is the horse. This is the horse I've been looking for. And I brought her from Dallas to Maryland, and she was with me for many years. And it was amazing. The minute she came, that farm changed completely. Like, everybody elevated, you know, like people would have, you know, show horses, jumping horses, whatever, that would come and retire there. So there was also this energy of like, horses come here and pretty much, you know, retire and go away. And as soon as she came, she brought living energy. And that whole place just turned up. And then when 2020 hit and I was in Portugal, she changed, she shifted, she left.
Yeah.
And
And what breed of horse was she?
she was a, oh my God, I'm totally blanking. She's an
Sorry.
American Western horse. Hold on. It'll come to me.
Like
It
a
doesn't
quarter
matter.
horse, or?
Yes, a quarter horse.
Cool. Yeah.
I'm like, what kind of horse were you? But she's
Yeah.
here. She's very
Yeah.
vibrant.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting because so much changed for me. I've been traveling the last 3.5 years. I really haven't been in the same place more than maximum couple weeks. And
Yeah.
so having a horse hasn't been really something that I was creating in my life. Creating a wellness center in Dubai, that was really where a lot of energy and focus was going. And then when I was in Costa Rica at El Lugar, I was like, wow, I think I'm ready. I'm ready to be owned by another horse now. And I fell in love with one. Her name was Reina, which means the queen.
Mhm.
And you know what's interesting is she's 2.5 when I purchased her. And I think I'm going to tell you guys a little secret. So as soon as I went to transfer money from my account to pay for her, I got a picture of my horse Angel from Maryland.
Uh-huh.
You know, she had left a few years ago, and her face just like popped in front of me, and I was like, oh, hello there. And I realized Raina is Angel, you
Cool.
know? And I was like, so her new name is Raina Angel,
Yeah.
and she is just progressing, and it's amazing, like seeing her. She's bigger than she was. She's being ridden now. She wants to dance. She's a Costa Rican horse, and she wants to dance, and she wants to be a mama. So I'm excited to see what we're going to create together.
Yeah. That's so cool. And it's so cool to know, like, when you form a, I don't think we've delved into this a lot in this podcast actually, but when you form, a bond with an animal like that, that you start to perceive the lifetimes that you've had together. And, I have a horse, well, I have two horses in Costa Rica, but my first horse I ever got there, Pregonero, like, it's so interesting when people see me ride him, they're like, wow, Sarah, like, you can tell that there's a connection between you and that animal. And I mean, like I said, this year I'll see him once. For 2 or 3 years, I didn't see him at all because of COVID. Like, there's such a like a difference. I mean, I guess what I want to say is, it's obvious that there's something beyond I own this horse or this is my horse, when you're willing to acknowledge the connection that you form with these creatures. Because, like I said, I won't see him, but then I see him and it's like we never left each other. It's like, it's not like, oh, he's forgotten who I am, or like the moment I see him and he sees me, it's like, hey, dude. And he's like, hey, dude. And then, like, it's like we've never been apart. Like, it's so interesting to see how they also don't, hold on to things in a way of like, oh, you left me, you need to be with me more often, you need to be around for a certain amount of time, you need to ride me a certain amount of times. Like if you're willing to not have that point of view and just be with that creature, and however you are on that day, like just how much they appreciate that, because that's how they function. They don't function like you haven't spent enough time with me or something like that. It's just like, hey, let's get together and be joyful and have fun.
This is exactly what I was saying from like how much my horse is facilitating me every single day.
Yeah.
And it is that picture, like there is something about this picture and looking at her, there is this us connecting, but I don't need the picture to connect. I'll just have to just connect with her. And these are things that I would love for more people around the world to even know is a possibility. Because
Yeah.
years ago, I could not even known what you were talking about. This was not in my universe.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I wonder what else is possible for each of us out there with anything, whether it's horses, animals, or something else. Like, what
Yeah.
is it that you know?
Yeah. And the planet as well is something that I also think the horses in my life have invited me to be way more connected with, because I think that's basically the biggest thing they're connected to, I think, is each other and then the planet. Like this thing of where they, there's not a continent, well, maybe like Antarctica or something, but there's not many places in this world where horses don't inhabit the earth. Like they're everywhere. They're like us. They're like, we love this place and we're going to just be everywhere. And they appear different in form, depending on the part of the world. Their body has evolved to, deal with the climate and the conditions and the land. But
Yeah.
they're so the energy of the planet. They're so the energy of like, this is our home and we occupy it in an energetic sense and a physical sense. And I'm so grateful for them as well to show me that energy, because I feel like they also invite us to make this planet our home, like for it to be this place where we can connect with every molecule, every piece of nature, every part of the planet, no matter where we are. And they've been such an invitation for, you touched on that energetic expansion and connecting with your horse, even though, she's in another continent to you, that if you're willing to be that big energetically, that you're actually connected with absolutely everything on this planet, which is another huge thing that they are for me. And I'm so grateful for as well. So, yeah. Cool. So thank you so much. I mean, that's half an hour pretty much done, which always amazes me how quickly the time goes. Is there anything you want to leave the listeners with before we say goodbye?
I do. I just wonder if each of you, just for a moment, even just said hello to all the horses that are around the world.
Yeah. Even like get a video up or something on like Google the Costa Sensei horse in Costa Rica and watch some videos or see some pictures of them and see what connecting with a horse that you've never even met, what that feels like, quote unquote. Yeah. Cool. And do you have some classes coming up, my love? Is there anywhere that people can find you in the world?
Well, I am moving to Dubai, and so most of our horse classes, and I'm actually going to be doing a class called Conscious Camel, Conscious Rider.
Nice. Well, you're in the desert. You are in the desert, so it makes a lot of sense.
We are in the desert. So it's going to be later in the year when it's actually nice to be outside. So we're targeting more things in the November, December timeframe for that.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I wonder what magic we can create.
Totally. And wherever you're finding this podcast, you'll find some links and things and how to find Laleh in the show notes. So I would also encourage you to check her out about business and the other things that she facilitates as well. She's a Joy of Business facilitator. So thank you so much, my friend. Thank you for being here. Thank you for bringing your unique connection that you have with horses and the joy that they bring to your world. And thank you for sharing your stories with us in this podcast.
Thank you. And thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys. See you next time.